of this industry. And you can't, like, to come to this region where people understand the suffering and say, like, well, what are we going to do without fossil fuels? It's like, could it be any worse than it is now? Maybe. But at least there would be a light at the end of the tunnel. Because the way it is now, this is continuing and everything is just going to multiply.
These aren't the only things that cause cancer.
No, well,
Yeah, plastics cause cancer.
which comes from natural gas, like you said.
But if there's diet, is this a diet Pepsi?
Oh yeah, it's diet Pepsi. There's totally cancer-causing substances.
If I can interlude a minute,
But we also live near gas wells, so what have we got to lose?
a lot of the well, not a lot, all of the contaminated wells and the cancers, animals, and even the homeowners, they are all localized around well pads, compressor stations.
Like I said, I haven't clicked on this yet. I'll click on it
And
tomorrow.
if you ever, I don't have a card with me, you want to go to a toxic tour, we can take you and you can see the suffering that's taking place. And it's not just in northern Pennsylvania. It's out in southwest of Pennsylvania. It's in Ohio. You got to Colorado. It's the same darn thing. And it, you know, they didn't have those cases till the extreme gas extraction took place. You know.
I really don't know.
Okay, so
I know because my job is the pipeline and asset. What am I called today? Pipeline integrity. Our new title is asset integrity. So when it comes to the environmental side of it, I have to study.
Okay, so can I ask you another question? If let's say this Atlantic Sunrise, let's say that three counties that are affected got together and decided they didn't want this thing. What steps would Williams take to make it happen? They would implement eminent domain immediately, wouldn't they?
I will say that you would have to take it up with FERC. FERC is the regulatory body. They're the government.
No, they're not.
No,
They're not the government.
They're the Federal Regulatory Energy.
Right.
Right.
So, you want to find them in the blue pages?
I can tell you the website.
Oh, I know their website, but they're not federal. They're licensed by the federal government. They're licensed by the Department of Energy. They're not federal. What about the Federal Reserve Bank? They're not federal either.
He asked me the proper steps. The proper steps.
I've heard the proper steps, but would you guys implement eminent domain right away? If it
I think these guys
flatly,
are dying away.
What's that? What's that?
I don't know what the question is.
What you do, the proper steps are to file that.
No, I didn't hear the
Speak with our land agents about a reroute possibilities. But can I definitely say those are the steps you have to follow?
Yeah.
The federal
But
file with them.
FERC has rubber stamped every one but one.
The steps are that you file it.
Oh yeah, but we know what their
You file the
steps are
docket
too.
number. You follow the docket number.
But we know what their steps are too.
And if it's approved through them, and then the project.
Dear, with all due respect, I've been a formal intervener in 2 of their proceedings already. FERC has never denied a permit. Never.
See, what's
Never.
happened here, corporate America has taken over the rights of citizens. We have no rights anymore. You guys have rights that supersede us.
I will say that I'm still an American citizen.
But that
I
really
might
don't
happen
count
to
anymore.
work for Williams,
That really
but
don't
I'm
count
still an
anymore.
American citizen.
Because Williams has more rights than the citizens. And that's part of the problem here. Corporate America owns your property.
What questions can we answer for you?
Well, I've asked a lot of
I
questions.
know you have. I understand that.
Yeah.
We understand you've talked to many people in the room.
Right.
Have you not gotten an answer to a question that you need an answer to?
Yeah.
What is it?
Okay, when a property owner gets a notice from their homeowner's insurance.
Have you received a notice?
Yeah.
From your
Erie.
insurance?
Yes.
Yeah. Erie
Then
Insurance.
please file that on the record with FERC. We have
Wait.
we have no one has come to us and told us that their insurance has been denied based on this particular project. So that's the information
I know this.
you need
I know
to
this
file.
is your event, but if I'm asking a question,
Yes.
you're going to show me the courtesy to let me
course I am.
finish it before you answer it.
Okay, ask the question.
Now, mortgage companies, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, are now refusing to write a mortgage on a property that has a pipeline on it. Okay? Meaning transmission lines connected with oil and gas development and exploration. That's what this is. You put a pipeline on my property through eminent domain, then my property becomes nearly unsellable. And you're going to tell me
Well, I'm going
that's
to
just
answer your question. If you ask me a question, I'm going to answer your question.
answer it.
I didn't hear a
All right,
question. Okay.
how are you going to compensate me?
I need to see, and you need to file, if you have absolutely been denied either insurance or a mortgage based on this property or any Transco properties. That's this company. If you have received a denial in any way, then you put that on the record, and that is part of the process.
Well,
that
you know
go
what the
through.
thing is, the Insurance Regulatory Commission, and I got to tell you something. You think the environmental groups are pissed? The secondary mortgage groups are pissed at you people for this because you're affecting their investment now.
Again, if you received a denial,
Look, you're talking about a Transco. They're not singling out. They're not differentiating Transco from SNIOG or energy. They're saying gas pipeline. Is Transco a gas pipeline? Is it a gas pipeline?
Yes.
All right. So then it qualifies.
so if you have that documentation, and you have the documentation, that's what you would file on the record. We have not received any documentation related to that. So that is the information, and that's the process that you would go through, is working through and putting it on the record. Once it's on the record, we can respond to it. But it's anecdotal at this point in time because we have received no information.
Sure that the things from
You can show it, but the best place to put it, honestly, is with the FERC folks are here tonight, placing that on the record. They will take your
as I
comments.
explained to her, I was a formal intervener in 2 FERC proceedings.
Okay, great.
You know, FERC is not federal. They're licensed by the federal government, by the contracted by the Department of Energy, largely funded by the private sector. Their job is to approve and issue permits. That's their job, okay? In their history, not one permit has been denied.
I cannot
not one-
comment on
And
that.
with very strong
It's not-
testimony against it too.
Again, that's not our issue. That is there, and that's what you would file with them.
And you know what? When we were talking to FERC earlier about these concerns, they're saying, well, we don't get into that. You'd have to discuss that with Williams. Now, look, oh yeah,
Put that on the record. The place to
Oh,
put
it's-
it is on the record.
it's on the record, and it's going to be very public.
Our entire process is public. We understand that. Everything that's filed with FERC is public information. Everything. So when you file those comments, anyone on the project can read that information.
Right.
If you file the documentation, everyone can read that documentation.
Like I said, I understand the process.
Okay.
Let me ask you too. Is it true, and we know it's true, but what's your take on this, that this natural gas, extreme extraction, was destined to be rich fuel for the United States? That's a true statement, right?
I can't
That's how it
comment on
was
that.
The question?
It's a national energy policy discussion that we're not really equipped to
Could I
answer.
ask you a question? When you say I can't comment, that means you can't
That
comment?
means I don't know the answer
All right,
to
that
his
means you don't
particular
know.
question.
That's
Okay,
all I wanted to know.
that's good.
Okay?
That's good.
It's a national energy policy question that I do not know the answer to.
Okay, so anyhow, that's the case. That's, the government officials were touting that, and that's how the gas companies got the rush to drill. Now,
And you understand that our company does not engage in drilling activities.
No, that's
Okay. I just-
WPX, which is a separate company.
Yes.
You guys don't even know each other.
anyhow, so this was a bridge fuel for the United States only. Cheap, affordable fuel, right? But now it's going to be shipped overseas. It's going to go to Cove Point, Maryland, and be shipped overseas to Asia and Ukraine. That was part of the problem with the Ukraine uprising. It's a gas issue. Now, so it's going to be to the highest bidder, whether it's someplace in Asia or it's Japan or Ukraine or something. It's going to go to the highest bidder, so it really will not be a cheap, affordable fuel anymore. Do you understand that question?
I understand. I don't hear a question.
Okay, the question is, do you, well, apparently you don't know, but
But
it's,
that's Department of Energy, and they are the ones that the Cove Point exportation is a Department of Energy issue. The Transco
So what's your personal comment? What's your personal comment on exporting it when it was destined for here?
The Transco line as it sits today is already intersects and interconnects with the Cove Point pipeline. Any
Right.
gas in our system today could go in that line if the Department of Energy and if FERC approves exportation at Cove Point.
There's not one gas company that will not export because they're going to be the highest bidder.
Again, we do not own the gas, we transport the gas. And we get paid a fee to transport the gas from point A to point B. We do not own the gas.
Do you know how many pipe failures Williams had?
I know there have been more recently, yes.
Yes, it's estimated
You know why? Because
a
there's more
lot.
pipes.
And the pressures.
How many do you know?
It's right in here, and I don't have it in the back of my
Here you
mind.
go. This
So-
is what, I don't remember the young lady, but she was really interesting to chat with.
Right. Happy Deidre.
Is that who it was?
Yeah, she's a nice lady.
But, you know, I would be interested on which ones you're
You have a card? I
I
can send you. I can send you the information.
Well, is it in that flyer? Because if you just give that back to me, that was my homework to read that.
I don't have this one.
Oh,
I
dang
probably have
it.
a newer one.
But, oh man, I really wanted to read it.
And then
Because
the-
she said she was coming to the
Then
next
all
one,
the
so I was gonna read
fatalities
on it.
and the billions of dollars of property damage by this. Here's another question. This is maybe just a comment. A smart investor, and I gotta assume there are really smart investors with Williams. Why would they want to add to extreme climate change, health effects, contaminated water, contaminated air, which is excessive from this operation and all operations of the extreme gas extraction? Why wouldn't they want to invest in alternative energies?
Okay, a couple things.
Worst
One-
thing that's going to happen
Hold on,
is
wait,
the
wait,
windmill's going to
wait,
fall.
wait. You got your 5 minutes.
All right.
I get 5 minutes.
You
We'll
dare
call it
have
fair,
10
all
if
right?
you need
Oh, I'm good with 10.
As long as I can have a cookie for it.
What kind of cookies? I don't want to get it now. But, so, a couple things. One, my specific job for this pipeline is asset integrity. And it's a job that I take very personally. And we have a team that does also take it very personally. There's multiple things that we do. One is we apply cathodic protection. The other first line protection is the coatings that we currently apply on our pipeline system. The other thing that we do is we use inline inspection tools, and we run those tools through the line looking for internal and external corrosion and dents. All of that information goes through an ILI engineer first, and then myself second, and then through a construction department as well. So it's not just one set of eyes, it's multiple sets. While I can say that yes, you're right, there have been 2 incidences that I'm personally aware of on what we consider the Transco system. In both incidences, in 2008 and in 2010, we had ran the tool. In 2008, the data, the way the tool recorded the data, did not lead us to believe that that was an issue. That was an absolute lesson learned for Williams. It was a lesson learned for our vendors that run the tools. It was a lesson learned for the industry as well. So we've gotten better since then. We've changed our requirements for what we look for. And then again in 2010, the issue there was the data was not received back from the vendor in an appropriate amount of time. So we also stopped using that specific vendor. Lesson learned, things moving forward. So while, yes, we've had incidences, we have learned from them, and we have taken steps to move forward from those. And I can tell you today, the vendors that we're using are now the second time that we're inspecting these lines, and the features that we're finding are completely different than they were the first time. So if you had a pipeline that was in the ground since 1960 to 2000, that's 40 years. So we found certain signatures, now we run them every 7 years. So
Anytime
those
you guys can
signatures
jump in and fill it.
are much less.
At night.
So on the asset integrity side of what our pipeline is, while we fully admit that we have had issues, we have learned from them, we have developed and we have changed our criteria to account for
Very
those
well
on the
rehearsed.
integrity side. On the side with natural resources and renewable resources, I agree. It needs to be both. There's room for both in this country. However, I will say that I have driven through California, Palm Springs, and there's acres of windmills everywhere. I fly into South Texas where my mom lives, and I see farms going down because the windmills are taking over their farms. I drive through and I see solar panels. Just the same. The amount of acreage that is required for those renewable resources is massive.
Well,
So there needs to be a middle ground.
If I may, The big problem with renewables is the small-mindedness, short-sightedness, people who think it needs to be on a centralized grid. On a centralized grid, the infrastructure is massive and expensive and not quite efficient enough. But if you went with individual,
So you're
the
saying
dynamics-
everybody has their own solar panel or everybody has their own windmill?
That's the way they do in Europe.
Okay.
now,
And I got
now I have to say this, and there's companies now operating in Pennsylvania who are offering free installation, for a full solar system,
Okay.
in exchange for the energy credits. So it costs you nothing to convert your house to that, and you don't have a bill.
But I'm also curious because we have rectifiers that we've tried to run. And back up, quick, 2 steps back. A rectifier is simply what we use to protect, put a current on the pipeline that will
Yes.
protect it. So the rectifiers need to run 24/7. It's very important that they not be down.
how's that rectifier power?
Exactly. So we had some that were solar in this specific area in Pennsylvania. We had some that were also ran off of the natural gas from the pipeline itself, and then most of ours are ran off of overhead power, so 220 or
Right.
240, 110, whichever it might be. I will say that the solar powered ones in this area were ineffective because we had to have such a large battery backup for the amount of cloudy days that you have in this area. Solar was ineffective to run a small 110 volt, 10 amp rectifier. So if I can't run a 10 amp
When was this?
rectifier, this was just
today?
yeah, this is
Every day.
This is
Let me ask
so
you
we
this.
had to take the solar power out.
So what you're saying is,
to get the battery
if
backup.
the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow,
I'm on.
we're all done.
But I had to.
You have to
couldn't run a
protect it every
rectifier.
single minute, though. That's the
But
problem.
the scale of it is simply that. So if you want the house to do it, I can't run a rectifier. I'll make it
Let me ask you this. We get the whole gamut of the extreme gas extraction, right? From the wellhead all the way through to Cove Point. Now, all that activities is putting pollutants in the air. You gotta agree, right? I don't care if it's your truck. I don't care if it's a compressor station running
This
24/7.
means he agrees
Well,
or
let's go
doesn't
back-
know.
Wait a minute. And the only thing I want to do here is say, if somebody was smart in the Williams organization and invested in solar or wind and increased the efficiency of the technology, we don't have any of the air pollutants. We don't have any water contamination. Likely won't have Bradford County, Colorado, and Texas having so much cancer. Because I can take you to Bradford County and show you things that you would want to see.
You mentioned earlier that each house should put in a solar panel.
It'd be like a
or wind.
community-based thing.
Okay. But would you assume that the natural gas demand would go down because of that?
We would hope,
Okay.
yes.
That's my only question.
Because of the emission, just because of the environmental issues.
Well, what you're doing is with, we have 4 export terminals already approved, 22 more waiting. Okay? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Business 101, you increase the demand, reduce the supply. What happens? What happens to the price? Goes up. So, what we were sold for energy independence, lowering domestic fuel costs, jobs, was bullshit, and now it's turned into, industrializing America, bringing industry back here, and helping out those poor neighbors in the Ukraine that none of you give a shit about.
I don't think any of that is true. I mean, we have reduced the price of natural gas.
Excuse me, in Pennsylvania, according to the
we have created more jobs.
PUC in Pennsylvania, between 2012 and 2014, the price went up 13.5% in Pennsylvania for domestic natural gas. Propane went up 40%.
Propane went up. Only
So-
natural gas went up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it did. Check with the PUC. If you haven't heard of it, you owe that to yourself to hear of it and go check it out. Don't take my word for it. You shouldn't take my word for anything any more than I should take yours. I want to fact check everything you guys say, and you guys should do everything that I say.
You guys, have you ever been to Bradford County? Probably have.
Sure.
Susquehanna County.
I'll bet half these people live there.
Yes. And have you talked to any families that don't have water, family members are sick since the gas companies come in?
I haven't talked to them.
You want to go for a ride?
Probably not.
Why?
Yeah, because you don't want
Why?
to see.
Right. I mean, look, you know, at what point does the plausible deniability argument sort of like...
I don't think I'm the right person to ask that question.
Maybe for your
Who
own
is?
personal good, though.
Okay.
It's devastating. Property values, they have to walk away from their houses because of the pipelines and compressor stations. And I know you guys need a job, but this is corporate America at its worst. Corporate America has come in and taken your civil rights away, and you don't even know it. You have no recourse on anything.
You know, I mean, see, where I live in Sullivan County, I had the fortune and misfortune for having a lot of pipeline workers from White Construction and all were staying in town. I also happen to be a musician. They seem to like music. Got involved with them on that. Freely, they'll admit, over a few beers, they wouldn't want this in their backyard. They wouldn't want this in their neighborhood. They wouldn't want it at all. Wyatt Construction even pulled out of working in Pennsylvania for that reason. Substandard pipes.
And one of my best friends is a union pipe fitter, and he's working in the fields right now. And it's a long story, but his bottom line is, as soon as he can retire, he's retired. Because he said, as you knew Pennsylvania when you was a kid, it will never be the same. It is an industrialized state. And it will never be the same. And you need to move out. And that's what we're hearing from the people we work with. So, sometimes it's going to have to hit home on the people that are working here, seeing what the damage is being done. There's no other places to go. I mean, it isn't like there's another continent that we can go in and live like we should without these damages.
And look, I got to be honest with you. You know, I'm not an environmentalist. I'm not a tree hugger. I drive a car. I eat meat. I have gun permits. I'm hardly would anyone consider environmentalist or liberal. But from a conservative point of view, why would I want to relinquish any of my property rights to anyone? I was born and raised near the refineries in Philadelphia. I moved up here to get away from that shit. I've been offered 6 times to have my land leased. I told them, here's the deal. This property's worth $193,000. Buy it, and you can do what you want. Other than that, I'm not interested. The last landman bounced.
What does that mean?
Well, I'm just saying, you know,
What does landman bounce mean?
all right, it went from the good old boy, we're going to be your good neighbors, I got some money for you, to we're going to get it anyway, to all your neighbors sign, to we're just going to run you out. And, you know, come down to, and I told them 3 times to let go of my storm door. And he didn't. And he bounced.
I don't know what that bounce means.
He left.
He did not come back.
He left.
He left hard.
Yeah. Thank you, gentlemen. If you
Do I need to answer any more questions?
nope. You guys need to think about really what you're doing. You know,
I mean, look, you know, in all honesty, you know, you guys are you're doing your job. You're trained, you're responsible, well vetted, you know, pre-vetted. And I've heard from more than one person in your industry, like, look, everything you're saying is right, off the record.
And you're
You know,
completely your own opinion.
Wait, right. And off the record, but hey, I got a job. I got a wife, 2 kids, and a mortgage. think anyone who actually abuses, takes advantage of other people because of their job, really needs another job.
I would tend to agree.
And you ought to think about it.